Okay, good evening, everyone. Glad to see everyone since we saw all of you yesterday at Tri-Board. So, and I appreciate everybody having flexibility in their schedule, showing up to the 5:30 meeting versus our usual 7 p.m. meeting. So we're gonna, before we get going, today is, I also have to look at my watch, it's February 28th at 5:30. I am John Lohr, the chair of the FinCom. And why don't we introduce all of ourselves before we get going? Starting off to my left.
Sarah Reyes.
Jody Garson.
Peter Underhill.
Joyce Boyardi.
Michael Crone.
Kathy McInnes.
Jen Zaretsky.
Coming in under the wire, I love it.
Talked anytime.
I said to my left, and you were at my left a little while when I skipped you.
Thank God he started at left.
Anyway, so I just want to remind our viewers that not only is this on Zoom right now, but you can also see this on demand on YouTube on the channel, so you can look at it later if you wish. We're going to get right into it. We're going to start off with buildings with Mike here at the helm. You ready to roll?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. How you doing?
I'm ready when you're ready.
I'm ready. Let's do this.
Just
Okay.
use the mic.
Just yeah, speaking in the mic.
Oh,
Microphone.
Not Mike.
okay.
Mike into the mic.
Whoa. The heck is this thing?
You speak to Mike all the time. Try the microphone.
You guys are getting fancy over here.
That's us.
How's
Fancy
that?
pants.
Perfect. Yep. Oh, hang on, Mike. We got one more.
Okay.
You have to go get your own chair.
The one and only.
You can sit next to me.
Ruby.
That's the hot seat. He doesn't want it.
Exactly. All right. Go ahead, Mike, whenever you're ready.
Okay. The budget for the building department. All right, so first we'll give you an overview what the building department does.
Okay,
Just in
great.
case for those who don't know, right? So the building department is a statutory requirement. We issue building permits, electrical permits, plumbing permits, gas permits, any kind of permit that you need pretty much comes through our office. When you're building, proposing to do anything, you submit the plans to us, we review it for code compliance, we enforce the building code, zoning bylaws, which is probably one of the toughest jobs for the building official, is to enforce zoning. So we do an array of stuff, other items that the Board of Selectmen have us do for like Class 3, Class 2 car sales and stuff like that. We work close with the fire department with all their inspections as well, so. We're a relatively small department, but we do a lot of stuff. We collect revenue, which you guys like, right? Last year, 2003, we took in $472,600 for the year. About 1,800 to 2,000 inspections, which is a little bit lower than last year, but the Toll Brothers project is winding down, right? We've got some new projects coming on board. 40Bs are coming up. You got as you can see, across from Tractor Supply, the one up towards Medfield. There's another one that's gonna be starting right at the old Butterbing's restaurant, right? We got a few other projects that are in the works. Then your general additions and all the other stuff that go along with it. One thing the state has done, which you probably are aware of, is the new energy code. So the energy codes are getting more and more restrictive, and it's costing the homeowner and the builder and anybody who does anything in their house a lot more money. So that is a challenging regulation, which all building officials are.
And in 2 to 3 sentences, could you just summarize what that new energy code is?
So the new energy code is gonna mandate HERS raters, home energy rating system. So when you put on a large addition or finish off your basement for 1,000 square feet or more, the state's gonna mandate, well, they are mandating that you hire a HERS rater, which they come in, and they're the ones who figure out your heating system, whether you have to change your heating system for the new energy codes. What the HERS rater does is, they have a computer, and they plug in all the information in the software given by the state. So they changed all the software. So if somebody wants to plug in something and it doesn't work, then they have to upgrade, right? So the HERS rater figures all that out, and they apply, when you apply for the permit, that comes along with it. So we, as building officials, make sure that the HERS rater has it approved, and then during the inspection process, at the end, the HERS rater goes and makes sure they put it in right. And then we just make sure that we have all the paperwork, goes back to the state, and they look at it as well. So this is all part of, lowering the carbon footprint. And I think the biggest problem, being involved with a lot of this at the state level, with the new building code coming out, the 10th edition should have been out by now. The last hearing for the new building code was today in Springfield, so, and the biggest problem is the energy code, so they're trying to mitigate through the problems. And July 1st comes a trigger date where the energy code gets a little more restrictive. So if anybody's thinking about doing anything in their house, right, a little inside information. Try to get your permit in before July 1st, right?
Sounds like a stimulus
Oh,
bill there.
and the permit fees are gonna go up July 1st too, so.
Yeah.
That's another reason why you wanna maybe get your permit applications in, right? So,
Are you open tonight for business? Okay.
come on, Alan, we have to be friendly. We have to be friendly.
All right.
So that gives you a general overview of what we do. We got a lot of people coming in and out of the department every day, just, even for general questions on, I want to do this, can I do it, We try to help them out, steer them in the right direction, and, most of the times they'll take them, if they need a variance, we'll take them right down to the clerk's office and help them fill out the stuff. And so it's, it's a lot of interaction with the public. Some people don't like it, but I don't make the rules, right? So just let everybody know the energy codes are gonna get more restrictive, so.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
How does that affect existing homes if they're being sold?
If they're being sold, it doesn't matter.
Okay, only for
Only when it triggers when you
new-
do something.
Pardon me?
Only when you do something to the house.
Okay.
Yeah.
So going back to your permits here, it looks like permits issued 472,000, is that right?
Yeah,
And you said that was slightly more or less than last year, did you say?
less than last year.
Less than last year?
Yeah.
And what's the trend been regarding all that? Like
Well, the
last-
trend has been really good, right?
Yeah.
Over the past few years. Been making a lot of money in the building department. So, I figured a couple of years ago it'd start slowing down, and it's not. The interest rates went up, so that's put a little hold on stuff. The price of houses, like, I don't get it, I don't know how, 30, 40-year-olds can afford buying a new house today, like we did when I was a kid. But it is what it is, I guess. So the impact of that is the cost of materials, the cost of all these new codes, the cost of the land, right? Everything has just gone sky high. So it looks like we have a lot of, apartments, 40Bs coming down the pike. The builders are looking for different ways to make money, obviously, right? We have the Emerson Place project still going. We've got probably, 5 or 6 houses built with only 2 occupancy permits issued, and they got, I think it's 38 lots over there. So we got that remaining for a subdivision. All the permits have been issued for Toll Brothers. We issued their last building permits last week. So then you have, after people move in, they want to finish the basements and make the decks bigger and all the other stuff. So that comes along with it. So we'll have to see how the economy goes and what projects we get. Looks like this year's gonna be a good year. It started off already, first month has been good, and January's typically slow, January, February, because we haven't had a winter. So everybody just keeps building.
Yeah,
There's no winter, right?
absolutely.
Just keep going. So, it's, the forecast is just looking into a crystal ball, taking a guess. That's what it's always been. I've been here 21 years, so everybody says, what's gonna happen next year? How much money we gonna make? If I knew that, I'd hit the lottery. Right? But,
Mike, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
So do you have the assessors go with you
No.
when you giving a CO?
no,
Why?
no,
Why?
because it's not on our building code.
Well, it's not in the building code, but it wouldn't obstruct them from going in with you, would it?
They go on their own.
Yeah, but they can't get in after you leave unless the homeowner wants to let them in.
Sure.
I mean, because I come from Westwood. When our assessors, and I was the assessing board, our assessors went in with the building inspector when they did the final CO, just to see, like, for instance, you know,
He was a nice building inspector.
they might, well, the point is that they may do a renovation, they put down a certain dollar amount on the permit, but when it's finally done, it's worth a lot more than that, potentially, from an assessing standpoint.
Yeah.
So it's one way for the assessors to get in and finally see what a real house is, what the real house is in terms of the true value of it, as opposed to later on, they're never gonna get in because the consumer probably won't let them in.
Well, maybe the next guy who takes my job can be more friendly to the assessing department.
Why would you be unfriendly to the assessor?
Because it's
To the
not in
point
our-
of the town, wouldn't
it's
it be in
not-
your interest to be
It's not in
friendly?
our regulation. It's not in our building code. It's not in our zoning bylaws, not in our what's everybody do today? First thing they do is, I'm gonna sue you. So anything that I can stay away from doing that, I'm gonna stay away from it. And I've always, done that, took that approach. The assessors have their own office. They can do their own thing, and they do. They come down and they check. There's a deck permit issued. They'll come down and ask, how far along is the deck? I'll say, well, it's still out there, they're framing it, it's not done yet, no CO. They can come in and see when the final is done, they can go out and most certainly look at it themselves. I'm just one guy, I can't, wait, let's go, if you have a big department, yeah, it probably would help. But, when you got a lot of stuff going on, people will call me and they'll say, we need a CO, okay, I'm here. And we need a final inspection. All right, go do the final inspection. Just because you do a final inspection doesn't mean you get a CO. So when you do the final inspection, you come back to the office, then you review the zoning to make sure you got the zoning, and you review all that other stuff, and then you issue an occupancy permit. Some towns, charge for an occupancy permit. We don't. I just feel as though our building permit fees are enough where $25 more for an occupancy permit just not justified. So, I just think it's more cumbersome to have somebody else tag along with you, because I'm all over the place by myself. That's all. I mean, if there's someday a full-time another person, then I guess you can look at it.
Just to add for Mike too, is a lot of times with final inspections, the homeowner's even there, it's the contractor that's meeting.
Yeah,
So, and I wouldn't want anybody letting anybody out other than who I know is gonna be going and looking at the job. So I would absolutely not want the assessor in my house unless I'm there. So I agree with you, there's no
Yeah.
point.
yeah. And there's no point of, causing more mischief for that. I cause enough mischief all alone.
Kenny, did you have a question?
Mr. Chair, yes. For 40B permit
Yeah.
fees, are they the same amount?
Yeah,
Everything is
Yep.
straight as, okay, thank you.
yep.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Hi, Mike. Under your list of permits, can you explain what 106, 304 is?
Yeah. So a 304 inspection is all the businesses that are issued an alcoholic license.
Okay.
It's mandated by state law under the Acts of 304 that the fire chief and the building inspector do an inspection prior to the issuance of an alcoholic license. So
Okay.
they have to pay a fee, and then we go do the inspection, and then once they pass, we can give them an occupancy for that whole year so they can get their liquor license.
Is this a recurring annual inspection?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Every year. Yeah. That came out of the Station nightclub fire.
Yeah, makes sense. Thanks. That was it.
So the only thing we get down to the budget is the assistant, department assistant.
Yep.
I took the 8 hours that we had when we originally got more hours, it was 36-hour position. So,
Carol, quiet in the back, please. Otherwise, you have to sit up in the front.
Carol got in trouble.
Go ahead, Mike, sorry about that.
So it was 36 hours. Then we split 8 hours out of that due to just creating a position for 8 hours, where we couldn't find anyone to go ahead and take that position for the full 36. So we created another 8-hour position after it. And so now that position, there's been this is the second person who's there, Stevie. Stevie is our, what do they call it, the work-off, tax work-off. So he's getting to the point where he won't be able to do, the 8 hours plus the tax work-off. So he's got some medical issues, and it's difficult to find 8 hours and just to have a separate standalone position. So I'm combining that back to what originally was approved for, 36 hours, so we can have staff there on Friday. Fridays, I'm just there, nobody else. So we can have, we're getting online permitting, something that, I've been against. But we got a grant from the state, and someone was pushing online permitting, and now I'm getting to learn all about online permitting, right?
Good, good. We need to adapt.
So the bad thing about that is I won't get to see everybody come in anymore, see? Just do it hide behind the computer.
We'll stop by.
So with that, it's, that's the way I understand it, goes to a central, all the permits go to a central person, which will be the department assistant, so we need more time for that one person to, take all those permits and give them to all the inspectors and check for them to make sure they got workman's comp when it comes in and the basic stuff, So I'll have that staffed 1 more hour a day instead of, 8 to 3 will be 8 to 4, and then, Fridays 4 hours. So we'll be able to have, during a Friday, if I have to go out or do inspections, nobody's covering the office. Nobody's there. I just have to put a sign. I'll be back. Or call me on the cell phone. So it'd be good to have that.
In the essence of time tonight, is there anything that you want to highlight on the budgets or that we should be aware
No,
of?
just that, what I wanted to go over and moving that
Okay,
over to there. We run over on our travel, cost, but we, rob Peter to pay Paul at the end of the year. So hopefully we'll have cash over. I just threw the money in there for travel. The last year was $2,900, so I put in $3,500 for this year.
yep.
Last year's bill was $34. So we had enough money to cover it for the other expenses that we didn't use. So
Makes sense.
that's it, I think. Any more questions?
Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, the stipends, I forget, what were the stipends for?
Stipends are for the plumbing, gas, assistant inspectors to have them there. So if somebody goes on vacation, there's somebody available to step in and cover for those inspections. So, being here for 21 years, I get 5 weeks a year off, so I need somebody to take those, cover while I'm not here. And my phone's still ringing anyway, so.
You don't have to take the 5 weeks.
Yeah. Well, I'm usually here, up in
I
the tree
know,
stand,
I
right?
know. Just giving you a hard time.
Put it on vibrate.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does, thank you.
Anybody else? Mike, we appreciate it.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you.
Seeing you.
Well,
Appreciate
try to
it.
make you more money this year, see what happens.
I think-
Nice comments about Jennifer in your letter
Yes.
also. It was nice that you acknowledge your staff.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, important everybody work together.
She's a good worker.
Okay, packed everything up. No Red Sox yet, so. You know, I go back to falling asleep on the recliner.
To be fair, that's what you do when the Red Sox are on, too.
Yeah, gotta watch him, right? You gotta watch him.
Exactly.
Happy day.
Thanks, Mike.
Good to see you.
So this is Mike 2.0, right?
2.0.
Okay.
This is Karen. Oh, building.
Good evening, folks. How are you?
It's been such a long time.
I know.
Yes,
We
Good to
missed us.
see everybody.
all of you.
How's everyone tonight?
Good, thanks.
Aged.
So,
Ditto.
Go ahead, Mike.
Mr. Chairman, we're here to discuss both town buildings budget and the executive office budget.
Perfect.
You were kind enough to forward to me a number of questions that the committee had. They were
Yes.
excellent questions.
Full disclosure, they were all my questions.
Oh, okay, all right.
That's why he said they were excellent.
Buttering you up.
Kerm's playing with
I
you.
didn't know that.
He's not gonna answer.
What a surprise.
Some of the best questions I've seen in a long time.
Oh, boy.
I know you're gonna be answering them all.
Offense to the former chair who's right
I
here.
will,
Mr. Soprano, you haven't been here for so long.
Go ahead.
I will do the best I can to answer those questions. If it's okay with the committee, I think everyone basically knows the operations and so forth of the executive office and the town buildings. So I was gonna go through the questions and answer those, which I think will highlight a lot of the questions that are likely to come up,
Please do.
and then go back and go through the actual budgets of those departments. And that should be probably pretty quick once we go through the questions, so.
Love it.
The first question was explain why the intermunicipal agreement has been entered with Medfield and Medway for a sealer of weights and measures. So under Mass General Law, Chapter 98, each municipality in the Commonwealth must have a sealer of weights and measures to conduct biannual tests of all commercial sales, scales and meters in the town.
You're on executive office right now, right?
That was Mike. Actually, we do have,
I was gonna
we
say, do
do
you want to
have a-
start with buildings or you want to go through the questions?
It doesn't matter to me.
Go through the questions.
yeah.
So
The sealer is actually under a different
Sealers
different
under their
line.
own-
It's under their own line.
Just to clarify for
But we'd be the
everybody,
office that would cover
Right,
it.
so.
These questions are under exec offices under my email versus buildings, so go ahead. I just want to let people know that this first 7 questions here are under the exec offices
Yes.
handout.
So recently, we joined forces with the towns of Medfield and Medway to enact an intermunicipal agreement so we could take advantage of economies of scale in order to conduct this work. Medway's the lead community, and one of their employees acts as the actual sealer of weights and measures. So we basically just pay a fee to the town of Medway for that service. As I said, every town's required to do this. We did have a separate individual in the past, but there were some issues there, and we had to move on. And the state used to be able to contract with the state to do it, but the state no longer allows towns to come on and do that. We looked at working with the county, but at the time, the county didn't have any openings for towns to join for this service. So one of the regional manager meetings we had some discussions and thought this was a good approach, because the sealer has to get certified, has to go to classes, has to buy the weights. There's a certain, and the weights are several thousands of dollars to purchase the weight set. So the towns, by coming together with this agreement, it just makes a lot of sense. So we don't have to worry about it. We just get a report,
Yep.
on a regular basis that these were tested and they passed.
And we collect the fees.
And we do collect fees for this. So when we are going to review the fees as well, our fee schedule, something we do plan on doing. I know it came up last night about checking our fee schedules and making sure and so we should be able to cover our costs with this for the most part by doing that. So we will be reviewing our fees over the next few months. So I don't know if Jody knows about this question yet, but the next question was to briefly review, perhaps with Jody's help, where things stand regarding the MBTA zoning law. Milton is the billboard of not approving this as a town, and what impact does this have to Milton and possibly Millis if it were to be voted down? So there's actually been some recent news about this, for those that may have seen some things in the paper. The AG has recently sued the town of Milton in regards to that. With Mr. Weiss's assistance, I do have a little narrative to go through to talk about that, to give a little background to the committee, because soon enough, you'll be seeing more and more information about a proposed
Yep.
zoning bylaw. So a proposed 40A, 3A bylaw to amend the town zoning bylaws is currently working its way through the town meeting warrant article process. The article is going to be presented to the MBTA 3A Advisory Committee on Monday, March 4th at 7 p.m. This committee, 3A Advisory Committee, was appointed by the Select Board in September of 2022 and has been working since that time on putting the bylaw together. The Advisory Committee's meeting, after the Advisory Committee's meeting, the draft bylaw will move forward to the Planning Board's public hearing on March 12th. So there's a process that's going to be going forward over the next several weeks. The Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities oversees the 40A, 3A, MBTA Community Rezoning Act, and it works at the discretion of the governor. Talking a little bit about the consequences, if a municipality chooses not to pass an MBTA community zoning bylaw, is the same for all cities and towns in the Commonwealth. Just to note that Milton is a rapid transit community, and therefore had a different timeline than the town of Millis. They had to comply by this past December 31st. We have until this coming December 31st to approve it. The guidelines published by the Executive Office of Housing note that 13 grants under their discretion will initially be withheld from any municipality not in compliance with the Act. Those 13 grants are a major focus of development funding for municipalities. They range from planning grants, such as the grant we actually received for our downtown development study in 2020, capacity grants, such as the $46,700 grant we received to actually create our 40A, 3A bylaw. And it would also include certain infrastructure grants to develop water, sewer, streets, and other infrastructure for commercial developments. Let's see, so including that, the Municipal Vulnerability Program, which Millis has been the beneficiary of 3 grants totaling over $200,000, would also be subject to possible denial by the state. Let's see. We have seen in Milton's refusal to comply with the act that the state can deny other development grants that are outside of the EOHLC. Basically, any funding that falls under the governor's discretion, the governor can withhold. And as I mentioned, the Massachusetts Attorney General has the legal power to assure the Commonwealth's laws are followed. Attorney General Campbell filed a complaint just a few days ago upon Milton's refusal and asked the state courts for an injunction to force the town to enact compliant zoning if Milton refuses to comply with the injunction, or to appoint a master to actually come up with the zoning and enforce it for the community, which would certainly be a heavy hand.
Yeah.
So that's the long-winded answer. So I don't know if, Jody, you want to?
Right. Yeah, I discussed this with Bob. This is a little more involved than I thought he would write up, but it gives you a lot
know
of
Bob.
information, so that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So important takeaways are the MBTA 3A committee will meet on Monday, this coming Monday at 7 p.m. It is a public meeting. It's been posted. We are usually on Zoom, so that information will be on the Millis website.
I think it's on the homepage of the website. I'll double check.
I know that Bob was trying to upload some documents today to the
Yes,
website.
we did assist him. He is now it's all
So-
He got some technical assistance
Yeah.
today on that.
So more of that information will be forthcoming and is hopefully available on the website now. Once we as a committee meet and discuss the bylaw, it then goes to the planning board for their March 12th, right? March
Yes,
12th meeting.
public hearing.
So that's a public hearing as well. And then we'll go from there. I'm sure we'll be talking more about this as more folks see the bylaw and One of the things I think is important to highlight is because this is a new law and we live in Massachusetts, the goalposts change fairly frequently with the state, and they're constantly coming out with new information or how we can comply or how we will be out of compliance. So there are still a few things regarding affordable housing, because we want to include in the bylaw a requirement for some affordable housing. What that level will be, it'll be at least 10%. So that will be in the bylaw. Whether we can do more is questionable. So we are trying to get some answers from the Attorney General's office, so.
And
Anyone-
it is the top thing
Okay.
on the website, so if anyone wants to read about it, and there's a link to different information and a lovely graphic of homes.
Perfect.
So you will see that, right, is the top.
I think everybody also has to understand that this isn't the town building these things.
No.
We can
Correct.
plan it, but doesn't mean
Correct.
anybody's ever gonna build them. So-
Right, it just
That is correct.
allows in certain areas more density. It doesn't mean that anyone is ever gonna build in those areas, but we have to allow it in order to comply with the state law.
Perfect. Thank you, Jody.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. The next question was to briefly review the progress HR is making with the $45,000 grant that we recently received. So I think Karen's going to talk a little bit about that, and that has to do with us working with an outside professional consultant and working to professionalize our HR services and pulling them together better with the school operation. So,
So I'm
Karen?
just going to turn this a
Yeah.
little bit to me. I'm a rule follower with cable. So, a little over a year, is it 2 years now? That we added the position of Assistant Town Administrator and HR Manager, which is my role. And I know there were some questions originally about what HR services, what that even meant. And I'm just backing up a little bit, but at the time, we didn't have any centralized location for HR. Since then, we have slowly and somewhat painfully, but we've gotten there, moved all the HR services to the executive office. As part of that, there are some things that we're looking at that we would like to get more efficiencies, create more efficiencies. And so we applied, we saw there was a community compact grant, and we applied for and were granted, were awarded the grant for the tune of $45,000. And I'm just going to read you a very quick overview here. So we sought and received the Community Compact Grant. We will be working with the Collins Center, which is through UMass. The project will study human resource operations, focusing on determining the most efficient structural options for providing HR services for the town. The town wishes to improve efficiencies and enhance the delivery of HR services by providing a cohesive approach to HR onboarding, benefit administration, policy development, and administration by creating an effective and efficient centralized human resources function, which we have sort of already done, but they're going to do an overview. Purpose of the study will be to analyze the provision of human resources across the various departments in the town, including the school department, and that's the important piece. We have started to take over some of the school piece of it, and we are working with the school department, again, to try to create some efficiencies, clean some things up. And so far, we're working on it. We've had a couple of meetings, but this has been great. So Mary, who is our consultant who's working directly with us, met with Mike and I and Victoria first to kind of talk about where we're at. She has now moved on and has started interviewing different department heads, some of the people at the school, to see what their take on it, what they think would be, you know, a good way to move. So we're in process right now. Our next step is to meet with Mary again, see what her findings were, and then decide what we really want to change and how we're going to work. So it's been great, and I'm glad that we have this. As, like I said, we had never had a centralized HR before.
Yeah, and in that same vein, could you talk about Victoria being the benefits manager?
Sure. Do you want me to speak to her? You want to start a little bit?
I'll start with that.
Okay.
Turn it back over to Karen. So Victoria has taken over most of our human resource functions that were previously being done by the finance office and the treasurer collector's office, with the exception of payroll, the payroll administrator. This has streamlined the process for employees for onboarding and for dealing with most other employment-related issues such as health insurance, retirement, any other employee-related benefit issues. Up until this year, the town of Millis never really had a centralized human resource department. And I think Karen can talk about at least the examples of some of the key things that Victoria's doing in that role.
Right, so we sort of tweaked Victoria's role is what we did. So Victoria sits, if you haven't met her, she's wonderful. She sits at the window in her office and you will see her. So she does AP for us, but she's also taking on, so she's now our official, like you said, benefits coordinator. She's taken on, she's currently the primary contact for any of the human resource inquiries that come in from employees. So retirees, like you said, employees, plan vendors, third-party administrators. She advises them, she helps with the onboarding process and the kind of the day-to-day operations of human resources. And just to back up, because obviously I am the HR manager, so what am I doing besides twiddling my thumbs in the corner?
Any nightly meetings?
And attending nightly meetings. So my role is a little bit a higher level than that. So I manage recruitment, hiring activities. I assist department managers in selecting candidates and presenting recommendations to the town administrator for final action. I work on grievances and discipline. I work closely with the department heads to develop job descriptions. I'm responsible for making sure that we're adhering to the federal and state laws and regulations regarding HR. I administer them and monitor personnel policies, statutory compliance. I work on the actual contracts. In fact, right now I'm working on integrating all of the different contracts for the different unions. We always had just MOAs, if you know what that is, memorandum or a memorandum of agreement, as we would go through the process of working with the unions to establish new contracts. And that was kind of a prior practice from prior administration. It made it very difficult. So you'd have this original contract and then about 15 MOAs. So in order to figure out what on earth was going on, you had to look through so much paperwork. So I'm working to integrate all of that. So now when we start fresh, when we start negotiating with everyone again this fall, we will have fresh copies. So that's been a work in progress. I've done all of them except for the DPW. So that is one of the pieces that I do. And I work with Mike, and I'm on the negotiating team for the union contracts as well. I also handle any of the workers' comp, injured on duty, that type of thing, unemployment, and anything else that's assigned. How is that? And I watch over Victoria. I do some of the day-to-day as well. If she's not here or there's something going on, I'm certainly willing to help people. But she's more of just, like I said, entering more of data entry, that type of thing. I don't know if that's
This includes town
clarifies.
and school employees?
Yes. So the only thing that I don't handle for the school, I don't handle their union contracts. I'm not in negotiations for them, nor do I do any disciplinary things for them. Sometimes it bubbles up to us because through the unemployment piece of it. But other than that, I have all I can handle over here, I think.
Yeah, please go ahead, Gary.
Just, there's been discussion about having municipal side attend the school contract negotiations that Mr. Kaczynski did in his prior job, and now there's no looking into that now because of your lack of time?
I'll
I
let
can,
you speak
I
to
can
that,
answer
yeah.
that, and that would be, that would be me, probably, that would do that on that end. And I've had some discussions, and they're not in negotiations right now, but certainly I'd be looking into that for the next negotiations.
Thank you, I appreciate that, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead,
Also,
Joyce.
does the school have any staff that's assigned human resources?
So, speak a little bit to that. So Terry, they're sort of going through some transition. They've had a little bit of turnover over there.
Right.
So I don't know exactly who is doing what sort of at this point. There's somebody who does the payroll. Terry Wiggins is business manager, and I don't know what his exact title is. So he's sort of the de facto HR person. However, for any of the employee benefits or that piece, that all is through us, and then we communicate with them. But we're still, like I said, some of the ins and outs we're still working on, which the Collins Center is hopefully going to we'll be able to draw some lines, because there's been a little bit of back and forth about who does what, and I want that to be really clear. So we're working on it, but yes.
We're still in a transition, but the ultimate goal is to have everything fully centralized here with those few exceptions that were noted.
Joyce, did you have a question?
Yeah, this is something I probably should know, but I don't know. When say a promotion is given to like one of the employees here, where does that money, has that already been allotted in your budget so that if somebody,
Well,
like,
I was going to say, Mike can speak directly to the benefits administrator, which we
Yeah.
Mid-year.
So, we moved mid-year, so it's only a partial year, and we did have some funds available, because I think I noted in the documents, budget documents, that we've decided not to fill that Department Assistant 1 that we had. We feel that Victoria and her extraordinary skill and her ability to get a lot of work done.
Well, she
can-
is phenomenal. I'm
Can,
just
can
curious
manage
as to-
that. I don't think, a lot of people couldn't manage all that she's managing, but we're certainly fortunate to have her. So certainly as long as we have someone of her caliber, I don't think we need that Department Assistant 1. So that saved the town $18,000 a year right there.
Okay, so that was the money
And I
that
would just
had
say,
been
honestly,
allotted.
we
Okay.
weren't sure. When my position changed, and I still, well, you'll see, I still do some things for town buildings, but as the position changed, we weren't really sure how it was all gonna flush out. Would we need a secondary person in the office, or a third person, I should say, in the executive office? So again, we were lucky enough to find Victoria, who can handle these things and is very good at her job, and keeps us in line, for the most part. I know she's listening. So that's been great. Sorry, Pete, go ahead.
That's okay.
Go ahead, Pete.
Mr. Chair, going back to Kathy's question, which I think is an excellent question, do you sense that the school is open to your participation? Are you waiting for an invite? I mean, it sounds like you're open to it. What is their feeling on it?
Yeah, I haven't had formal conversations about it. And again, their negotiations are not coming up for a little while with their teachers' union. Usually that's the union in my past that I've participated in, the teachers' union, because the other unions tend to follow along from that, because that's the strongest union at the schools. So I haven't had any negative feedback. I just need to have some more discussions about it, just as we come up to those negotiations. So I can certainly keep the Finance Committee informed as time proceeds on that.
So
I anticipate you'll be asked again.
Yes.
So in going through all the documents for the exec and the town buildings and talking to Mike and Karen, I thought it was important to highlight these areas to not only this committee, but just to everybody to show the progress that you guys have made. Because it's here, it's written down, but sometimes it just needs to be emphasized. So that's me that made all those questions. So if you want to transition to more of the budget, we can probably move on.
Well, we still have a couple questions left. Do you want me to skip over those?
Yeah, you can skip over them. You can go to the budget if you want.
Maybe there were good ones.
Or which ones do
Well,
you have?
there's one I will hand out briefly. I'll try to pick up the speed on it, because I know
Okay,
you have a
all
hard
right.
stop for another meeting you like to attend. But there was a question about town bills online versus.
I did ask that.
So I did ask the town treasurer to do reports of the last, since that has picked up, since that began. Since that began in FY '17 until through FY '23, there's reports of the amount of money that's come through online.
Yeah.
And you see it's exponentially gone up.
Nice.
So you see the usage of
So
that.
technology's working.
I don't have a percentage difference tonight. I mean,
That's
something we
okay.
could look at moving forward, but you can see that it is getting very well used.
People are adapting, is what you're saying?
People are adapting to
Alright.
this approach, and people seem to be embracing it.
Okay.
So it's easy, it's quicker for people, they don't have to
Wow.
plan an hour out of the day to come by, or sit and write in a check and put it in the mail. So I think it has been embraced, and so the town treasurer provided those to me
Thank you.
earlier today.
Perfect. Thank you for
So,
providing this.
if there's any questions on that, I know it'll take a little time to read through, but
Yeah.
they're in order from, I think, from this FY '17 to present. So you'll see in the totals, every couple of pages, you'll see the totals. I mean, it started at 619,000 in FY '17, and we're basically up to 5 million now.
That's awesome.
So huge increases.
Okay.
So moving along quickly. So you had a question about consulting services and the HCA funds for the social worker. That shows a 0. And I think, Carol could probably talk about this if there's other questions. But essentially, when we do the original budget, we do not include the HCA funds in the original budget. Those get included later because it's a separate sheet. So that, something will get rolled into there,
Just for reference, this is on the budget for the exec offices.
Right, so last year it was at 70,000.
Yeah,
I expect this year that'll be, probably the recommendation will be reduced to 35,000.
okay.
But that's not in there currently. You will see that moving forward.
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry if I missed it, why?
The reduction, because we're, a couple reasons. One is the HCA funds are coming to an end, so we are making adjustments there. And also, we do have opioid funds that will be made available. And so some of those funds can be used to go towards that as well. So I have had discussions with the folks in the health department about that. So these are all policy discussions, but we're trying to kind of balance out, trying to, continue these programs as best as possible, but at the same time, realizing that we're gonna have to make adjustments over time as the HCA funds do come to an end.
When? I'm sorry.
2026.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What
so-
year, like month? FY?
FY '26 is the last year we expect there'll be any appreciable funds available to spend.
May I?
Sure.
Thank you, sir. Does the demand on those services, current demand on those services support cutting the budget in half?
That's a tough question. I think there'll be some further discussions as we go through the budget process over the next month or so. And again, this is not, the select board hasn't made any decisions on this. This is simply what I'm looking at and for my recommendations. So we'll see. I mean, certainly if it's something that the finance committee has a special interest in, it's certainly open to discussion, but, I'm not saying
I'll
there's.
just be frank, instead of beating around the bush on it. I wonder why it's not zero.
Oh, okay.
So,
Just to know, so you know
All
where I'm
right,
coming
all
from.
right.
so Pete, I know you've listened to all the other FinCom meetings online. So with the fire, the police, other departments that have come before us, they're either making steps to reduce their HCA funding, or the question has been asked, are you preparing your budget for not only 25, but fiscal year 26 to start reducing as well? I don't know if that answers your question.
It does.
But
I
I
mean,
think we're going in the same
Again,
direction.
and I don't want to get too much into it, because we're not discussing, debating,
Yeah.
discussing, or advocating for anything. I just want to make sure I understand, and I think key to making that decision is, what does the demand on the services dictate? You know, what's the call rate? What's the expense? What's the level of effort? How
Yep.
frequent, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Yeah, I mean, those are good questions. I would probably defer those to, say, the police chief and the superintendent of schools for some of their feedback, and other safety officials as to the value of those services and what they're providing to the community.
Yeah.
But from what I've heard, they are providing value, but you may want to hear directly from the people closer to the trenches on that, as to, the value of that. So, Mr. Chair, the last item on the executive office I'll touch upon is there was a question about the increase in the town administrator salary. So just to talk about that briefly, last spring, my successor employment agreement was negotiated with the select board. Shortly afterwards, after that negotiation, when the extent of the budget shortfall became clear, last spring, I decided not to accept the majority of the pay increase that was outlined in my contract for FY '24. I'm not sure if I mentioned that last year, but that's what happened. And this is basically just, it reinstates that, that reduced rate. So,
I'm
So-
just concerned, Mr. Chair, you didn't take a majority of it. What percentage did come your way?
I think it was, I don't know off the top of my head, probably between 2 to 3%.
Okay, thank you.
I know it's a jump, so I thought it would be good to discuss it, that's all.
Yep. And that's the last question on,
I know.
so
Wow.
we can.
Should have
do you-
stopped at 5.
I think do you want to
Run out of
go
time.
through the selectman town administrator budget, or have I answered the questions?
No, I think you answered the question.
No, I think the questions were a good launch pad in terms of
I
just
just had
answering.
someone talking, about, and you had mentioned it last year, Mr. Vice Chair, about like legal counsel, bidding that out again. It's been how many years, and for all the contracts that you do on a yearly basis, how often are they revisited?
That's a good question. I know we did switch counsel, I think it was about 5 years ago.
Right.
It has not been rebid since. I mean, it's something I can certainly talk with the select board about it. It's their appointment. I will say that the retainer, the monthly retainer has remained unchanged. I have looked at some of the other rates, KP Law and a few other rates, which are actually much higher. But, you know, it's a good point. I mean, every once in a while, it should at least be reviewed.
Yeah.
I will say the service we've gotten from Mead, Talon, and Costa has been outstanding, but I will say that it is a general practice every once in a while, the town to review that. So I'll certainly take that back to the select board.
Shifting gears to CPC, capital planning, can you add some color around the stairs to the Memorial Building?
Sure. So, about 2 years ago, the town, through Karen's work, received a grant from Maya. They're our property insurance company. We received a grant which was sufficient to hire masons to do a repair on the front steps. I don't know if everyone's aware, but we had a lot of wear and tear on the front steps, a lot of chipping away. Some of the metal plating was coming loose. We did hire masons, and they did actually a great job, the last masons that came in to work on that. They did tell us that with New England winters, it probably only lasts 2 or 3 years, because these types of repairs, they only hold so long because of the hot and cold and salt and everything else that the stairs deal with. Fortunately, up to this point, it looks like the stairs are doing pretty well. So
Yeah,
therefore, at this point, we're deferring
Okay.
on that project. We're not getting rid of it off the plan, we're
Yeah.
just deferring it. I think it will need to be done eventually, whether that's another 2 years or 4 years, depends on how well it holds up. This is part of the broader discussion about the VMB, and really, it's the only town building, other than, say, the middle high school, that hasn't received, you know, any big updates in the last 20 years. So it's something that we keep maintaining year to year. Sometimes the cost seems a little high, but it's a lot cheaper than a new $60 million building. So that's how I look at it. If we have to spend a couple $100,000 a year extra to keep the building, you know, the HVAC and the drainage and other parts of the building together, it's a lot cheaper than the principal interest payments on a $60 million building. So,
Which is a good segue into, unless you want to talk about the boom.
let me just mention the boom lift. I think it was another question you had about the capital project request for a boom lift. It's called an aerial boom lift, and I don't know if that was in your informational packet. It might have
It is.
been.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like a giant spider with a big, a big bucket on it. The town buildings is requesting this through the capital planning committee. It would be used for a lot of different outdoor tasks in the town, outdoor maintenance of buildings, tree trimming, holiday decorating, outdoor lighting, and it would be used by all the departments, all municipal
school.
and school departments. Probably be kept at the DPW garage, but it would be available for any outdoor maintenance where we have to get up off the ground. Right now, in the past, there's been some requests for a bucket truck, which is substantially more expensive than this. So essentially, right now, if we need a bucket truck, we have to go to a local contractor and ask to rent it for a day or to borrow it. We don't get a lot of that outdoor work done. Recently, we hadn't had the windows in this building washed in 5 years. And we did have a company do it, and it wasn't that expensive, but we found out later, the company did it from the ground, which was okay, but, you know, it's not as good as being up on a bucket and put a lot of pressure on the windows and really getting it. So this would allow for that to be done by our own crew. We would need to have, you know, 1 or 2 employees trained in it and certified. But once that's done, I mean, there's a lot of things that we could use that truck for, that piece of equipment, and it's, in the big picture, it's a fairly low cost.
Yeah.
So that's the aerial boom lift. So the.
Just, Mr. Chair, if there is an assurance that this is going to be in a covered building at all times and not sitting outside when you're going down the transfer station.
Yeah, it would be inside.
I'll be directly asking the DPW director about that when he presents.
Yeah, this will
Okay.
have to be inside.
All right.
Yeah.
And I haven't had that conversation with them, that is the plan, so
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
I agree,
There's a lot of
Yes.
5 pounds of
Yes.
you-know-what going into that
Yeah,
building, so.
yeah.
Mr.
Yeah.
Chair?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead,
I believe
Peter.
you had a question. but-
No, go ahead.
How much are we currently paying for rental costs for comparable equipment to this boom lift? Like, how much,
I haven't done a full study on that. I will say some things have just gotten deferred because
understood.
of it. Or like maybe some tree trimming that we could have done. It's part of the what we outsource. So it's hard to give an exact number on it, but it certainly has limited our flexibility and has cost, some funds.
I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but during the CPC meeting, we talked about like
We
a
did talk
2-year
about it.
period before the break even hit.
okay,
Yeah.
So it's
good.
pre-
That was
Yeah.
what I was leading up to.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. I
Yeah,
would
it's
say
not
it's
10
fair to
years.
say a 2 to 3 year period
Yeah.
before you'd say, from the work we're able to get done and the funds
Yeah,
saved.
return on investment. Okay. That's,
So,
Yeah.
and just having the
That's good.
ability at 24 hours a day to have that machine available if we need to get at something and do something.
better than the 18-year vac truck we approved, so.
A lot cheaper than that now.
Any final questions for Mike or Karen?
I have one final one. How's that insurance going, buyout for the contract, union contract people to offer them to get off of group insurance?
Yes, that's something we're looking at. That's a good
That is
point.
one of my number one things
Yes.
as far as negotiating in the fall.
Okay.
Yes, we do have to negotiate that, but it's something that we've been looking at, and we're gonna be talking with, the school folks as well about that, because we've been through some of the insurance issues, because I'm not saying it's good or bad, but because of the numbers, the way it works is the teachers' union basically has veto authority over any change on a townwide basis, so we have to get the teachers' union on board, so.
Because?
Because they make up a majority of the people on health insurance.
That's how it works.
I
So-
just-
Public Employees Committee, so if they vote it down, we
There's
have
a,
no say.
there's a formula under the state law, and it's based on the number of employees in each unit. And because they're the largest unit, they have like 55% of the union membership in the town.
And
So.
it tends to be the retirees, so they're very nervous about any of that kind of thing too. And
So, and again, I'm not saying they're opposed, we haven't had a formal proposal to them yet, but there's a process. I just want to let you know there's a process to it. So we will be bringing something to them. The first step would be bringing something to the select board, hopefully over the next couple months, to talk about the opt-out
Yeah.
provisions. And then if it's something that the board is open to, we'd be bringing it to the unions and, put together a system where people could opt out of the health insurance, and they would get like an annual stipend for doing that. And usually the town does save money through that, because if we can get one person to take their spouse's insurance, the town could save $20,000 off one employee.
And you're giving them 6,000 or so.
And we're giving
Some of
them
get
some amount of
7
money.
A year, so
Yeah.
it would behoove people to, it's unfortunate that municipal employees are being guided by what the school wants, because it's extra money in people's pockets if you do not get the insurance from the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Shifting gears to, it's on the agenda here, the
buildings.
draft warrant. Did you
Oh.
bring a draft warrant at all?
I don't have a draft warrant yet.
Okay.
I do have a list of items that the
If-
board
if you
approved.
could email it
I
to
could
me.
email that out to you.
Perfect.
I'll get that out to you tomorrow, so you can forward it to the committee.
Yeah.
All it is a list of potential articles that's in there. As a timeline, I would say I should have the first draft warrant to you 2 weeks from tonight.
Yep,
Because the selectmen won't see it until a week and a half from tonight.
yep.
But you'll be able to look at it a couple days later for your meeting to go through and discuss what's on there, and certainly, if you think there's anything missing, or, we can certainly talk about
Yeah,
that.
I just think it would be good for all of us just to start engaging our brains in terms of what's going to be on
And
the
just-
articles and the warrants.
Sorry, and just quickly, did you want to talk about town buildings at all, or no?
I'm good.
You're good?
Anyone else?
Okay. So I'll just say,
Do you have anything to offer?
Well, I just want to give this 2 cents here. 2
Yes.
cents. First of all, I
Go
would
ahead.
say that we're combined with the school. Yeah, sorry.
question, don't answer.
I'm sorry. But our work through the school is combining the custodial has been fantastic. I think it's
Okay.
worked really, really well, so there's that. These two handouts, just so you can look at them, you know,
Yeah.
in your free time, show why we are requesting $100,000 in each of the, one for repairs and one for contracts. We are absorbing all of the other buildings at this point, meaning police, fire, library, Niagara Hall. So that's why you're seeing the numbers, but the proof is in the pudding sort of here, but feel free to reach out if you have any questions about that. And my last 2 cents is that I feel very strongly about the town buildings. I think that's our legacy. I think they will be here long after we are all said and dead and gone. If we don't take care of them and we don't put the preventative maintenance in, we are doing a disservice to the citizens. That's my soapbox. So,
Very-
thank you.
Very good point, Karen. Thank you for bringing that to our
Did I
attention.
squeeze that all in?
Thank
You
you.
did.
Thank you.
Do it again.
Do it again. Thank you.
We appreciate.
you all.
We appreciate your time. Going to the minutes that were handed out.
I move that we approve the minutes of the last meeting
February 13th.
on February 15th, 2024.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the last Finance Committee on February 15th, 2024. All in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
I abstain.
We got 3 abstentions, Deirdre, both Pete's and Mike.
Repeat.
The handsome one or
Pete
the other
repeat.
one?
All right.
Right,
And,
so it's 7-0, 2 abstained.
three.
Three abstain.
Three
Three
abstain.
abstained.
3, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Pete Ruby, Pete Underhill.
6-0, 3.
I'm sorry, yeah, 6. She said 7.
What, are we the finance committee
Yeah.
numbers?
It's been a long couple of
Three
days.
I
abstentions.
thought Joni was at the last meeting.
Rookie mistake.
Yeah, but
Alright.
She was via Zoom, weren't
The
you?
Pete's and Mike
there
were.
are 9 of us, so 3 were not here. Pete Baruby, Pete
Okay.
Underhill, and Mike Cronin.
I'm gonna keep moving past liaison updates and new business, old business. I appreciate everybody being at Tri-Board yesterday. I thought it was really, I thought it was productive, to be quite honest. And
Excellent.
I thought I walked away with a lot of good information. I hope everyone else did too.
Yeah.
With that said, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Hold on.
Uh-oh.
So, just quickly, you'll probably want to schedule in a discussion of the zoning article, the MBTA zoning article, like an official discussion at some point, so,
In one of the future meetings, you mean?
in one of the future meetings.
Yeah, okay.
So after the 12th, when the planning board hears the article, so probably not the 13th, but maybe like the 20th, 27th in there, so we can kind of have a formal discussion of that.
Yep. Sounds good. Thank you, Jeff.
3:20.
Say it again, Deirdre?
So 3:20 for the zoning?
Yeah, we can look at, is that DPW that day?
Yes,
It is, but we could do the zoning prior to DPW.
Yeah, we,
Or-
let's noodle through that a little bit.
Yep.
But to your point, whether it's that one or the week after's,
exactly. I just want to
Doable.
bring it up because we should have a formal discussion. It should be on the agenda.
Yes.
For discussion.
I'll make sure, Deirdre, I'll talk with you and we can, get that either on that 20th or another date.
Along with any citizens
For the
petitions
27th,
that may
yeah.
or may not be.
Okay.
As of now, there's not.
Right.
Yeah. Move to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Hopefully
all
people
on
can
Zoom.
make the Zoom.
Yep.
Not mandatory, but optional.